Welcome to Recently Logged, where this week, the rat is the cook. Hello.
Hi.
Here we are.
Yes.
I'm Robbie.
And I'm Micah.
And together we are Recently Logged, a film podcast.
Sometimes.
If you can even believe it sometimes. Our past two episodes have been about films, but not a specific film, which changes this week, Micah.
What are we talking about, Robbie?
We're talking about our first film of season 5. We wanted to go with something, a classic, a personal favorite, if you will.
Personal favorite, if you will.
Yeah. We're talking about Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
It's gained a pretty good following in recent years. Online reviewing sites, basically everyone from our generation, like millennials, even Gen Z, seems to love this movie. So
Yeah,
it was very
popular,
very highly acclaimed. Yeah,
too, right?
I mean, it's from one of the most popular and highly rated animation studios in America. So. It makes sense.
Successful.
I was about to say one of the most successful directors. I would argue one of the best directors in animation.
His recent track record.
Well, we'll talk about that a little later. But let's tell the people what they need to know about Ratatouille.
What do they need to know? Ratatouille is a 2007 movie.
There Will Be Blood, same year.
Yes. Rated G, which is crazy.
That is a little crazy.
Like, not even that
it's
just
a scary movie.
No, not just that it's rated G, but there's like 0 G-rated movies that come out, you know?
That's very true. Nowadays, there's almost never a G rating attached to a movie.
That's pretty crazy. It is an hour and 51 minutes. This little
nice.
IMDb description is: a rat who can cook makes an unusual alliance with a young kitchen worker at a famous Paris restaurant.
Yes. As we've spoiled partially in the intro of this episode, the rat is the cook.
It won Best Animated Feature Film at the Oscars.
As it should.
It was also nominated for Best Original Screenplay, Best Music and Motion Picture, Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, and Best Achievement in Sound Editing.
Normally, I at least scratch my head at one awards nomination for a movie, but honestly, it kind of deserves all of them. Can't even be upset.
Its cast features Brad Garrett,
very nice,
Lou Romano, Patton Oswalt,
love Lou Romano,
Ian Holm, Brian Denny, Peter Son, and
very cool,
and others.
Very cool.
Others are there.
Others are
directed by Brad Bird.
Yeah.
Co-directed by Jan Pinkava.
Oh, I did not know this had a co-director. Jan.
He's probably an animation director.
Pinkava, I would assume is how you would pronounce that, but I could be wrong.
Original story by Jan Pinkava and Jim Capobianco. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And screenplay by Brad Bird and story by Brad Bird.
Interesting. So was this based off of a book or something? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
So it's just two guys came up with the story and Brad Bird's like, hey, I should make a movie.
Well, no, I mean, there's usually a writing team.
I know. I just thought it was funny. Well, typically, if a director's writing the screenplay, you'll see even if it's just partially, you'll see the original authors of whatever they're using in the screenplay team, in the writing room.
See, both the other writers, they're just Pixar writers.
Oh, okay. Well, not just Pixar writers.
They've
only worked with Pixar.
They're Pixar.
But I'm sure they're very talented writers outside of that.
I'll see on Letterboxd. I take that back because there are 5 writers credited on Letterboxd.
Okay.
We have Emily Cook, who helped write Gnomeo and Juliet and Sherlock Gnomes.
Hey, both of them.
And Kathy Greenberg, who also helped write Gnomeo and Juliet and Sherlock Gnomes.
They brought some of that Sherlock Gnomes heat to the Ratatouille screenplay.
I guess that's 6 writers, dang, because we also have Bob Peterson. But Pixar writing teams are always big.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's an animated film. They go into production and pre-production very differently than regular features.
Yeah, the score, Remy, do you know who did the score?
Yes, I do, Micah, because it happens to be the entry in one of the greatest film composers currently working, Michael Giacchino.
And it is the cinematography is by Robert Anderson and Sharon Cullen.
Oh, cool. Co-cinematographers. Again, probably not that uncommon on animated films.
I was about to say, for an animated film, it's quite a bit different than a lot of like other films.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't usually see co-cinematographers. I've only seen that like once in live action. But I guess it's probably pretty common in animation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
all you need to know.
That's the 2007 film Ratatouille. There was later an adaptation of the story that was hosted on the internet, which I don't know. I hadn't run this by Micah yet, but I thought maybe we could do a little blurb about it at the end.
What? What? Nobody's thinking about it.
Nobody's thinking about it.
Nobody needs to hear that. Not a single person cares.
Maybe we'll leave it shrouded in mystery then.
No, I did a video on it on my YouTube channel.
Did you?
You should go check that out.
Yeah, it's called Ratatouille, the TikTok musical.
Yeah.
And it's weird. But yeah, we're going to talk more about Ratatouille.
Let's do that.
That was an excerpt from Michael Giacchino's masterwork of a score for Ratatouille. Oh my god. Well, here we are. We're here to talk about Ratatouille.
A fun fact for the listeners, and I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast.
Whoa.
I feel like I might have, but this used to be my all-time favorite movie.
You know, not a bad pick. I feel like you have mentioned it.
It's still one of my favorites.
I don't know
overall, but this used to be my number one.
It used to be number one.
This was the movie that like first really connected to me in a way that like movies hadn't really back when I watched this for the first time.
Well, for the first time, like when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
And then that love for it grew and grew, and it just so happens to also be like the best Pixar movie.
Yeah.
So,
I was about to say.
Good thing that didn't happen with like, I don't know, Monsters Inc. or Inside Out or something.
Hold on now. Let's hold on. I thought you were gonna say like an actually bad Pixar
I can't think
movie.
of any right now.
Yeah, that's true. Like of the Pixar stuff we watched when we were younger.
I'm trying to think of
there's plenty of like newer,
like A Bug's Life or something.
Bug's Life, yeah, that's true. That would be kind of a lame favorite.
I'll be like, oh, I love A Bug's Life.
A Bug's Life first inspired my love for cinema. I mean, more power to you if it did, but
yeah, see, all my least favorite Pixar movies are pretty new.
Yeah, they're pretty recent, except for
A Bug's Life.
We grew up on Cars 2, though.
Yeah,
we might have watched it more than the first one.
No, I don't like the first one either, and growing up, I kind of liked the second one.
It's true
because
of Michael Giacchino's score.
Because I did little spy thing. Like I played little spy games with my cars.
I mean, you gotta love it.
Young, so I was like, oh, they're just doing what I did, and I didn't realize it's kind of a dumpster fire.
It's a joke of a film, really, honestly. But we're not talking about that film. We're talking about Ratatouille, which happens to be not a dumpster fire of a film. In fact, some might say it's a 5-course gourmet meal of a meal. A meal?
Meal? A meal?
A meal? It's a layered reference, Mike.
So, Robbie, if you were to give some brief thoughts on Ratatouille, what would you say about
brief
Ratatouille?
Thoughts on Ratatouille. I love the score, obviously. I think it's probably Brad Bird's best movie. It's a stretch to say that because he's got so many great ones packed under his belt at this point.
He's got 3 great ones.
I was about to say The Iron Giant is phenomenal. The Incredibles is like probably one of the
second best.
The second best 3D animated movie, probably. But yeah, both of them are great, but I would argue that this is probably his most sophisticated, and probably his most, I don't know how to describe Ratatouille, really. Micah has zoomed in on a picture of Brad Bird. It's unnerving. But yeah, I don't know. Ratatouille is a great movie. It's very well shot, I will say. I'm really surprised given, like, how they had to shoot, like, the visual things required of this movie. They shoot it surprisingly well.
Like the fake camera movement of the movie are very consistent.
The lens
really
choices.
Nice.
Micah, they're doing like a dolly pole thing in this.
I was about to say there's a lot of like actual like in scene.
I was about to say very sophisticated, very intentional camera movement that really works. It's got a brilliant screenplay. Like I said, I think it deserves definitely the nomination for best original screenplay, maybe even the win. But yeah, it's a fantastic movie. It's got a really nice message. It's got a great cast. I love it.
Revy, you know what you're saying though.
What?
When you say that you think it deserved the win, you're saying
for
it had
best
a better
original
screenplay than like No Country for Old Men.
Isn't that based on a book?
Is it?
I thought it was.
Because I know There Will Be
Could be
Blood
wrong.
is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the original screenplay.
Because Zodiac's based on a book too, right?
There's so many, technically.
Yeah.
There's so many good movies from 2007.
There are. I was about to say 2007 is a great year for film.
People don't like Sunshine.
We did a whole episode on Sunshine.
But what did you rate Ratatouille?
What did I rate Ratatouille? I rated Ratatouille. I think nearly every time I've logged it, I either gave it a 4.5 or a 5. But I have officially landed on a 5 out of 5 rating. It's very good.
Nice.
What do you think of Ratatouille, Mike?
What do I think of Ratatouille? I think Ratatouille is a freaking masterpiece.
Well, yeah, probably.
I think it really, really balances its characters and its tone and its pacing and everything brilliantly, while also having what I think is honestly the best presentation of filmmaking, like class essentially of Pixar. I genuinely think that this is the most classy and overall well directed and well cinematography and everything. All of the visual elements of that make a movie are just fantastic in this movie.
You know what? I would argue that the only thing that really comes close is like Turning Red, which is kind of a weird comparison, but that's another really well visualized movie.
Yeah. I think Remy is an amazingly interesting protagonist to follow along.
Yes.
I think the story is funny. I think it's engaging. I think it's like endlessly rewatchable. I think I don't know. I think its message is good. What is there to say? I think Ratatouille is a pretty darn perfect movie.
It's funny because I think most people who have never seen Ratatouille, which is a very small amount of people nowadays, given the whole cultural resurgence a couple of years ago, and again, Pixar being a very popular studio.
Cultural resurgence. Shafrillis just put out a video.
Yeah, that's all that Shafrillis. Yeah, I was talking more the TikTok thing, but yeah, that too.
That wasn't people even falling in love with Ratatouille. Right? That was just an ongoing joke.
It was a bit that went too far.
It was a bit that went too far.
They did a comedic bit too close to the sun.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's what was I gonna say? Something about Ratatouille. It's a very good movie, and if people hadn't watched it by now, they should go watch it because it's very good.
Wow, amazing.
I don't think that wasn't what I was gonna say.
No, you were saying something about like people who haven't watched the film.
People who haven't watched. Oh, right. It was gonna be about the premise, Micah, because most people who haven't seen this kind of usually scoff a little when you tell them the premise of the movie.
It's a goofy premise.
It is a goofy premise, and we keep talking about it like it's the most sophisticated thing on the planet.
I just said it has sophisticated filmmaking.
Yes, exactly. And I would agree. I just thought it was funny.
The rat, he's the cook.
The rat is the cook, exactly.
Got your toe.
That's such a good beat when Skitter's up on the roof. He's like, the rat is the cook. It's very good.
It makes me want to see the rat everywhere. Oh
my gosh.
Should I be worried about this? about you.
We didn't even mention it's like probably like the second or third funniest Pixar film.
No, that's a given, man. This thing is hilarious.
So funny, dude.
Let's get a little bit more into like questions and stuff.
Yeah.
What's your favorite scene or sequence in Ratatouille?
Oh my goodness, there's so many good
Right?
ones.
I was thinking about this beforehand.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like you'd be amiss to not say the final like dinner rush.
Oh,
like,
dang, that's what I was gonna probably
like
go with.
it's the culmination of not only the plot but also like all of the score comes together. You get
score
like
is
the final
so good.
suite. You get the most like vital and live camera work of the entire movie. You
get Appetite.
I was about
And
to
he's got a big ego.
Appetite. He's got a big ego. Like literally the last, I don't know. I mean, the whole movie is fantastic, but literally the last like 20 minutes or so of this are phenomenal.
What makes this movie work so freaking well is essentially the fact that it has such a good like finale for everything. It's got such a satisfying culmination of all of the screenplay elements pulled into just like a really fantastically shot and scored sequence.
Absolutely. It's the culmination of all the groundwork that all the very hardworking filmmakers had been setting down this whole movie, and it's fantastic.
But man, I also just want to shout out to like that montage of like when like Colette and Linguini are just kind of like living life, like just that entire like kind of down period from when Remy is like helping Linguini become a big chef. And like life's going well for old Linguini.
Life's going pretty good for old Linguini.
That's a really fun montage.
You know, it made me think about it. Like right before the final like rise to the finale, there's this weird like downbeat with with Colette and Linguini with like the interview and everything, like the Gusteau legacy. Like it's, I don't know, that beat has always struck me as very just kind of odd in the mix of the film. Like I get why it's there.
I don't know what you mean.
But I always think
that's continuing the progression of Remy getting his ego hurt.
No, right? I know, I get that, but it always just feels so weird because like I'm like, whenever we get to that point in the movie, I'm like, it feels like nothing is happening right now, and then Ego bursts into the room, and I'm like, oh.
What do you mean it feels like there's conflict? I'm so confused what you're talking about this scene.
It's just, I don't know. That's always been a strange scene in my mind.
I don't know why.
It's stuck with me.
I think it's funny. I think it's
shot. It's a good scene.
I think it's short. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly. That's the thing.
No, Robbie.
It doesn't. No, I'm saying it doesn't like. I'm saying it's not a bad thing. I was just.
You know what else is a good scene, guys? That chase scene with Skinner.
Oh, that's a cool scene. A great scene. It's a great sequence, man.
Again, really well shot. I love the way this movie is shot.
It's so wild to me that like the cinematographers were tasked with getting like an intense visual clarity when most of the time the subjects within a shot one tiny. Of them, I was about to say one is like really small and the other one's like 10 times bigger.
Yeah, I was about to say the fact that they shot this so well. Blocking, and you've got Linguini and Remy and consistently like in frame together, and that's pretty impressive because Remy's a tiny boy,
a small boy. What can you say?
Yeah, do you have a question?
Oh, sure. What do you think? I mean, this is pretty much like the heart of the movie, essentially. What do you think of Ego's character? Like, he's not really a major part of the movie until the last little bit. I mean, obviously he's there, but
he's a major part thematically.
Thematically, it's true. Which is why I was going to ask what you thought of his character and its execution in the movie.
I think it's a part. I would change nothing about Ego. Like he's just
yeah, me too.
It's used in such an effective way because he's a critic and such a big critic. You could use him in a way that he doesn't really have to be introduced more than a name drop before. He's got that kind of intimidating presence of the fact that he was the one who took away one of their stars, man.
I love how they're like, he killed Gusteau, bro.
He killed Gusteau. He gave him a bad review and then Gusteau died. So you get this like really interesting kind of setup of him as like this almost just villain character. But yeah, like in all of his introduction and scene interactions, he's got such an interesting point of view that he brings to like the art of food.
Yeah, exactly.
Which then gets shattered in a really unique way.
Yeah, no, ego's always been one of the most fascinating parts of this whole movie for me. Like for many reasons. But I really appreciate the I don't know, the care and subtlety that goes into writing him, because he could have very easily just been like this kind of evil,
Yeah, I was about to say
looming critic.
They turn him into a really touching character.
Exactly,
because at the end of the day, he is a character who appreciates art. He had just gotten he had gotten into too much into his ego.
Whoa,
it's crazy.
That's crazy.
It's a movie all about ego, really. Remy's ego.
Yeah.
Ego's ego.
Ego's ego. Linguini's
Skinner's ego.
A lot of ego flying around.
But no, I think it really interestingly connects, especially not only to kind of a lot of the subtext that the movie has to say about movies as an art form, but also really interestingly to Remy's character himself, because I don't feel like we get a lot of protagonists like Remy.
That's true.
Because he's kind of a jerk.
No, he
for
is
a lot of the movie.
He's kind of a major jerk for most of the movie
because he's got such a big ego about the art that he is especially good at.
Yeah.
And I think it just ties him down in a really interesting way to have a critic like Ego, and to end up making a dish like he does for Ego.
Yeah, I was about to say Remy's artistic revelation and personal revelation directly influences Ego's revelation, which is quite nice. I like it. It's a good screenplay. Who would have thought it?
A darn good family food, Remy.
Exactly.
And maybe it makes for a darn good family film.
Wow.
Maybe food is just some kind of allegory for film in this movie.
I mean, you could argue it's just an allegory for all arts.
I know. I was just making it because of the family food and the family film.
It's true. Man, what a great film.
Right?
I don't understand how you would write something like this, because it's not even that conventional of a plot structure either. It's actually kind of unconventional in a lot of ways, especially for a kids movie.
I mean, it follows pretty basic beats.
It does, but the thing is, you go from Remy with his family, and you I don't know,
the inciting incident.
A younger audience would probably assume that he's going to spend the whole movie trying to get back to his family. But then it kind of moves on from there. They come back later. You have Remy being chased around the kitchen. You think, I don't know what you would think, but it's a very not scattered, but it's a very not.
It subverts child expectations.
It subverts a lot of the expectations placed on animated films, because it's not a super
It's not a conventional animated
film
it's
not
structure.
A conventional structure for
But
a film
I don't think Brad Bird's ever done I don't think anybody's accused him of doing a conventional structure.
The Iron Giant kind of is.
Well, that's true, but that was his first film.
Yeah, I was about to say, which it works for that, obviously. But yeah, even something like The Incredibles takes a very unconventional structuring and plotting method to most animated features out there.
You know what's kind of funny? Is this is Brad Bird's least or most subtle film, and somehow it's so not subtle.
Right. I was about to say, Mike, it has a guy named Ego.
I think the reason this feels like his least subtle is it's probably his least political.
That's true. Because this one he's talking about art. He's not talking about politics.
Yeah, so it comes off as slightly more subtle than all the rest of his movies.
Oh man,
he's not a very subtle filmmaker.
He's not. Which good. That's what I say.
That's what happens when you work in the Simpsons for your whole career. That's beforehand.
True. Shout out to Brad Bird's work on The Simpsons. Good stuff.
I'm trying to think of it. What do you think of Linguini as a character?
Linguini.
He's kind of an odd co-protagonist.
Linguini's just like me for real. Talentless and loveless for a majority of the movie.
Dang. He's got talent, Remy.
No, he does have talent.
Just not anything compared to the true talent Remy.
Compared to a literal rat.
Anyone can cook, Remy.
Anyone can cook. It's true.
But only few can be great.
Yeah. Linguini is a really fun, co-protagonist. I don't know.
You know, hold that thought. It's really kind of interesting and a little troublesome to think about because Brad Bird's one of my favorite directors, but like 90% of his films come down to like there are those born better than you,
Right.
Which is an interesting take with a lot of baggage behind it.
Yeah, no, it's always an interesting thing because it does come up in most of his movies. It's very strange. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if
I mean the only one that doesn't really is like the Iron Giant, which technically takes the opposite message.
Yeah,
you're
right.
not what you don't have to be what you're born to be.
I don't know. It's very strange. It's a very strange motif throughout his work, and I'm not sure what it means.
Go on about Linguini.
Linguini, he's a cool co-lead. He's basically, I mean, like obviously he's a very like opposite like foil to Remy in most ways
Because he has no ego.
he has no
Remy.
ego, Micah. He's got
so
no
crazy.
He's got no confidence.
He also has no talent. It's a talentless hack.
Talentless hack controlled by a rat. And like that's why I was saying he's just like me. But yeah, I don't know. Linguini always has struck me as a very fun character to watch.
No, he's
got a lot of really like fun antics in this movie.
He's a really fun like character to work with Remy.
I was about to say, if you were to pair anyone up with Remy, it had to be Linguini. You know, it had to be someone like Linguini.
He's really goofy, and like his personality kind of like contrasts Remy.
His little
really fun
arc
ways.
of slowly becoming more confident
And more like good in the kitchen. He
Exactly,
actually
yeah.
becomes a decent chef by the end of the movie.
He's got such a touching arc in this movie, which, you know, he's kind of like in the background for a lot of the finale. And it's really sweet. I don't know. He's always been one of my favorite characters in this.
Yeah, no, he like I said, he's such an interesting character, and that's what's I would say unique for this as a kids movie, quote unquote. Is the way it kind of uses its characters is so much different than a lot of movies that kids would be used to seeing.
Yeah.
Because Remy is, you know, he's got like very prevalent problems that need to be worked on
Right.
from the movie, and Linguini is like a fun side character, but kind of the main, like one of the main characters. But then he doesn't really have anything to do by the finale,
Right.
and like, you know, you have all of these different pieces, and then Ego, who's not in much of the movie, comes in and he plays a big role. So like the characters are used in a very unique and interesting way for this kind of movie.
It's a very naturalistic and practical way of screenwriting.
Yeah.
That you don't usually see. Like it usually focuses like very specifically on getting one character through this set structure, and then all the other characters just kind of serve that. But this is it's a nice departure from that.
Yeah, it's really neat. I love this.
I was about to say
movie.
the character always directly influences what should happen next in the plot.
You ever think about the lighting in this movie? That's beautiful.
We can go on about Toy Story 4 looking amazing, but like honestly, this probably has more dynamic lighting.
You could go on. See, Toy Story 4 is like, what if it actually looked real? Wouldn't that be crazy? No.
I mean, it's a well-lit film too, but
Yeah,
it's no Ratatouille.
Whatever. It's not Ratatouille.
It's no Ratatouille. That's
Pixar needs to. Man, I hope they learn. I don't know. They had Luca and Turning Red, which are both more animation stylized, because they were on a straight shot to just like photorealism, which is
Micah Lightyear came out right in between those, right? Or maybe it was after Turning Red. I don't remember.
I think it was. Maybe it was after. I don't know. Anyway.
Yikes.
But yeah, they were on a straight shot to photorealism with like Toy Story 4, and
Which at that point,
stuff like
just
that.
you're just making Avatar with less steps, I guess.
But they need to learn that animation is not just emulating real life.
I was about to say, there's so many cool things. I mean, obviously, this is an example of a movie that you could really only do in animation, given its main character and
Imagine
everything.
if it's in live
Dude,
action.
I just
Live action remake.
I just pictured like an 80s or 90s film that does this premise
That'd be so cool.
with like a
That'd
little
be so
animatronic
fun.
rat.
That would be like a
That'd be
you get
so
like you
funny.
get like Henson Company to do like a little puppet rat.
Oh my gosh.
Because think about like the 80s witches.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
those little mice. Those are
That would've been
adorable. Like
so
that would be
funny.
amazing if you got Remy to be one of those.
Okay, there we go. I take it all back. You could do it in live action, but,
I
it would be a very different
I would
vibe.
want it to be like really grungy and like kind of like that 80s comedy vibe.
That would be so good. I would watch that in a heartbeat.
It would be completely different.
It would be an absolutely different movie. I
it
doubt
would
it would even have anything to say about art.
No. This would just be a stupid 80s comedy.
Dude,
about
it could be a buddy comedy with Linguini and Remy. And all of their social antics. It doesn't even have anything to do with cooking.
There you go. We pitched a movie. Some 80s director would make that.
Get Joe Dante on there. He can do it. I know he can.
Joe Dante, what will he do?
What will he do? But yeah, Ratatouille. Very good
Do you
film.
have another question?
I don't really think so. I mean, do you have something else you wanted to bring up?
No more questions.
That's a question, Mike. Do you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Wow.
Very dynamic question. I don't know.
I mean, I think about this movie, and it's a very simple movie and actual like story structure.
Yeah.
But man, like every scene is fantastic. Like I
It really
literally can
is.
think through almost every. I've seen this movie like a million times. I can think through like almost every scene in my mind, and just like there isn't a bad one. There is not a bad scene in this. There are so many good bits. There are so many
There really
fun
are.
things. You got the stuff. You got a meal. Nobody's even
meal.
talked about a meal.
The meal's fantastic.
Or what's the dad's
Django.
name? Django. Django and Emil. They're really fun characters. You've got all the stuff with like imaginary Gusteau. Like that's really fun and like and like a unique thing. Like what's up with
yeah.
imaginary Gusteau?
Imaginary Gusteau. That's a great bit. That's a great thing.
Well, it also has character relevance.
Well, I
Remy.
know. I'm not saying like, oh, it's purely great just because it's funny. I'm saying it's a great part of the screenplay.
Like there are a lot of like moving pieces during this, and it
Yes.
blends together, paired with some of like the best filmmaking that you'll see from Pixar. Honestly,
Absolutely, man.
to be just one of like their most like solid films. You
Yeah.
know, like honestly, one of my biggest complaints with a lot of Pixar movies is that they just kind of feel like, especially later Pixar, they just kind of feel like fluff. They don't really feel like films oftentimes.
Well, they don't have a lot of like tangible things to them, which is strange.
They follow a lot of the beats that Pixar movies are supposed to hit with
Yeah.
some fluff about whatever their world is supposed to be.
No.
But this movie not only has really fantastic world building in how it goes about introducing you to the rats and to the cooking world, but it uses its character, like each one of its main characters, in such a unique way to progress Remy as a character, each one kind of bringing their own ideas, whether it's like imaginary Gusteau or Skinner or Colette or Linguini or Ego. They all challenge Remy's ideas and ideals in some way.
Yeah. Man, you just said Skinner's name again, and I was like, oh, I love Skinner so much.
Like literally, think about
Such
that.
a great
Think about that
character.
though, Remy. Literally, every single one of the characters essentially brings some new idea that challenges Remy's worldview,
Well, yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah.
it kind of builds to again the culmination of him letting go of his ego.
I was about to say that's why the conflict between all of the different characters is so interesting, like all of the time, which is insanely impressive from a screenwriting perspective. The fact that Skinner and Remy have this like duel of fates thing going on, it's great. It's an amazing. I don't know. It's just an amazingly like well-crafted movie. I don't know how you would write something like this.
I don't know, man.
Let
But-
alone direct it, you know?
yeah, and then it's just directed so well, and it's shot so well, and it looks so good.
Micah, it has, like, I would argue, probably the best Pixar score.
And it's got a fantastic score, and it came out just in the right time, I think, when Pixar was still doing like cool stuff with their animation, but it didn't look bad. Like it's early enough that like it's still in like a little bit more of their unique era of animation. But
It doesn't look nearly as dated as something like The Incredibles does.
or Monsters Inc.
Or Monsters Inc., yeah.
Both of those
That's true.
Toy Story, like, oh, well, Toy Story was their first one, but like a lot of their early ones do look a little dated now.
Yeah.
Bugs Life. stuff like that.
Ratatouille, the fur isn't quite up to snuff nowadays,
We
but
don't
honestly,
need
I
the
think that's
fur.
for the best.
Right. I am glad with the fur they have. I don't want stupid, weird,
I don't want like hyper real
turning red style fur.
4K Ultra HD rat fur on my screen, please. But yeah,
Wow, what did I look at that?
believe
We
it.
said, but yeah,
we're
at the
we're in
same
sync,
time.
Micah.
That's so crazy. Yeah, Ratatouille, one of the best animated movies of all time. Maybe not the best.
Not
animated.
the best,
but
not
one of
the
one of my
best, one of
favorite
the
animated
best.
movies of all time.
I was about to say that
there's
would be
so
a
many
bold
good animated
claim.
movies.
That would be a bold claim, my man. There's so many animated features out there.
But yeah, that's Ratatouille.
That's Ratatouille. It's fantastic, and like I said, I thought it would be an interesting film to cover since I mean we grew up watching it, and it's obviously a favorite of ours, specifically Micah's. But yeah,
I did
a great film,
I did my first video essay ever on Ratatouille.
yeah, you can check that out.
No, don't.
In the description
Don't.
if you want to.
Don't do that. Don't put it in the description.
No, I won't link it directly. His YouTube channel is in the
It's
description.
a bad video. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great or anything, but
People need to stop. It really bothered me because like I started like putting out better video essays, ones that I was more proud of.
yeah.
And then people were like still watching the Ratatouille one more than anything,
Like
and I was like,
you
no.
gotta understand, the Ratatouille video essay market is a very in-demand thing. People love Remy. People love the rat.
Well, that was my very first video essay, so it is not,
Very nice.
go. But go check out my YouTube channel.
And go watch Ratatouille. If you haven't seen it in a couple years, go revisit it. Try and look for more of its commentary on art. Try and soak in more of the character writing if you haven't before.
Oh,
Because
and there's one more thing we could
what
talk
is it?
about.
What is it, Micah?
Any of you guys, any of you listeners out there, ever been to Florida?
Ever been to
And
Florida?
when you were in Florida, did you ever hang out in the Orlando area?
Yes.
And
Oh
when you
my
were in
gosh.
Orlando,
I just realized what you're talking about.
did you ever go a little bit over to this little place called Disney? And while you were at Disney, did you ever
gosh.
go to this little park known as Epcot?
I did.
And while you were at Epcot, did you ever go to the country of Paris?
I did.
Specifically France. And when you went to France and Epcot, did you ever go onto the Ratatouille ride?
Barely.
So yeah, I want to tell the story of this. So we just went to Disney not that long ago.
Yeah.
And they just opened up the Ratatouille ride.
Ratatouille's culinary adventure or something like that.
It's Remy's. something.
Remy's something.
Anyway, but we go there, and I'm like, yes, this is like my favorite movie. We gotta go. We gotta ride this ride. It's
Yes.
new. It's cool. I want to go ride this ride. But the line when we got into there was like 2 hours, maybe.
It was a long line.
And
Very
we were like, oh, we'll wait a little bit.
We'll wait it out.
And then like a little bit later, it was down to like an hour and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And me, Robbie, and Haley were like, you know what? Let's just go for it. So we go in and we wait in the line, and it's a long line. We
a long
wait.
line.
We
It's an
wait.
hour and 20 minutes.
We wait probably a good like 40 minutes outside, like before we
A
even
little,
get in.
little outdoor queue.
And with the outdoor queue because of the overflow, and then we get inside, and it's a really, really cool line.
Ah,
Like
it's a
there's
great-
so
the theming
many
in that
cool
line is so
detail.
cool.
I love it so much. You're like rat size.
You get to
going
see
through,
the skyline.
I was about to say
of
going
Paris.
through different sections of Paris.
So cool.
And they do such cool things with. Anyway, we're in line, and then like we've already waited like an hour. And then the line just stops moving for a while, and then for a long time, and then people are like getting like kind of antsy, and then it finally is said over the intercom thing that the ride is broken down. So we're sitting there for a while, and they're like, we don't know how long it'll take to be done, and this is like the only day we have at Epcot,
Yep.
and like the time is ticking away.
Time is ticking.
And Haley had never been to Epcot, and I was like, oh no. So we ended up leaving the line. We ended up leaving the line after probably waiting about 2 hours.
Yeah, probably. Roughly.
We ended up leaving the line, going and do some other things. And we checked the app, and like like the ride is closed
Yeah,
for a
still
long
closed,
time.
yeah.
And then quite a bit later in the day, it opens back up, and we book back over there, and we
Yeah,
wait
man.
like probably another hour. We
Probably
waited-
more than that.
We waited probably over 3 hours to get onto this stupid ride, but it was such a freaking cool ride.
I wouldn't call it a stupid ride. I thought it was a fun ride.
Well, I said stupid ride as just because it took so long to get on.
Yeah.
But man, the theming of it and the technology they used on the ride, you ride on the backs of little rats
That's true.
as they run through the kitchen, and it's so cool.
Dude, that ride would have terrified me as a child.
It's such a
'Cause,
cool
like,
ride.
You're crawling like under cabinets and stuff and like shelves, and there's like these little rat eyes that peek out from behind
But
the
dude,
boards. And I'm like,
the
ooh.
perspective and stuff, the technology they
so
got,
cool. It's so cool.
literally, because they used like a blend of like screens and projections and different actual massive sized props.
Dude.
Like one time, I literally thought like literally
That was
I'm
one of the
sitting
wildest
sitting in
moments
the
at
cart,
Disney
and I
World.
swore that that was a screen in front of us. Like it just looked like a screen, and then we drive through it.
We drove right through it, bro.
And I was like, what?
like it shatters and you drive just boom, just it's so crazy, man.
Anyway, that's a little side tangent, but just
Go
if you're
ride
ever,
the Ratatouille
if you're ever
ride.
in
If you're
the
in Epcot.
Florida area,
Oh my gosh.
I would suggest paying to go to Epcot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
That's a great ride. For any of the Ratatouille lovers out there.
That was really cool, and I also sold a bunch of little Ratatouille like merch things. I got a little pen that my
Yeah.
girlfriend bought for me. There were these little like magnetic rats that you could get to sit on your shoulder. I wish I could have gotten one of those. But they were. I wasn't gonna spend the money.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
such a cool thing.
Apparently, the Ratatouille Renaissance, the Ratatouille-sance, if you will,
The Ratatouille
the Ratatouille-sance has been ignited further by the addition of the Ratatouille ride.
It's a great ride.
It's a great ride. But yeah, that's
That's all of our thoughts.
That's all our thoughts on Ratatouille.
It's a frickin' masterpiece.
it's a great movie. I wanted to start off season 5 with a great movie, and we did, Micah.
There you go.
Can you believe it?
Go check it out sometimes, guys.
Absolutely.
Let's get into our What We Watched segment. So, for those of you who are either new to the podcast or have never made it this far, I mean, it's a new season.
It's a new season.
We do this little segment at the end called What We Watched segment where we talk about, guess what we watched since our last episode.
Talk about what we watched.
We talk about all those little movies we logged on Letterboxd.
We recently logged on Letterboxd. Whoa.
In between episodes. Just giving some quick thoughts and ratings.
Yes.
This time we're going from the 10th, which
Going
is when we
from
put out
January 10th.
January 10th, when we put out our last episode.
Yes.
So, Robbie, what did you watch on the 10th?
I watched a little film called The Manx Man, which is
Manx Man.
a silent Alfred Hitchcock directed film.
I know him. He's the Manx Man.
It's about a fisherman and a lawyer who grew up as, like best buds, and then they fall in love with the same woman. It's
that
a
always-
classic premise.
and always hurts a friendship.
It was actually one of the more solid entries in the silent era of Hitchcock. I'm a big Alfred Hitchcock fan, for those unaware. And this was really fun. I really enjoyed Carl Brisson in this.
Carl.
He gives a great performance. And it's just a fun story. I liked it.
Neat.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Well, on the 10th, I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the first time.
Probably a bit better.
Very, very good, but I'll talk about that later.
Whoa,
Dun, dun,
crazy.
dun.
All right. On the 11th, I watched a little
No,
film.
I wasn't done. I also,
have more on the 10th?
Also on the 10th,
Oh
I
my
watched
goodness.
Shrek 2.
Just watching movies, I guess.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Which is a fantastic little film.
Shrek 2,
It's
yeah.
just fun. It's goofy.
We did
We've
an
talked
episode
about
on
it
it.
before. We did
Yeah.
an episode on it. It's such a good movie.
It's a great film.
I gave it a 5 out of 5. I also gave Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 5 out of 5.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, I said you watched a bunch of films. I watched 4 different films on the 11th.
Wow.
First one was Blackmail, another Hitchcock film. I believe this is still silent. It might be an. No, okay.
You don't remember?
I don't remember, dude. Blackmail was the first film he did with sound. And it's not good. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's not like terrible. But it's like, I don't know. It's very dry. It's a very dry movie, and I was not loving it. But yeah, I give it a 3 out of 5. And then I watched Juno and the Paycock, which is probably Hitchcock's worst movie. It's another one that he did with sound. It's an adaptation of a stage play. You can definitely tell. And it's not good. It's very boring, unfortunately. I gave it a 2 out of 5, which very rare, like, negative rating for me. I don't usually watch... I don't think that many bad movies.
Robbie has been in an interesting era lately where he just gives everything good ratings. Like,
I'm watching good stuff.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't think I've seen him give something lower than a 4 in forever.
I just gave Juno and the Paycock a 2.
I know, but I don't think I've seen you outside of those give something a 4, less than a 4 in forever. It'll be like the most mid movie, and Robbie's like, but it's a 4-star movie.
Wow. Well, I happened to watch another not 4-star movie on the 11th, Micah, called The Skin Game, another Hitchcock film, pretty much right after his transition to sound, so it's a little later on than something like Blackmail, but it was pretty good. I don't know, it wasn't great, again, but the drama was more interesting than something like Juno and the Paycock, so I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
That's so crazy. On the 11th, I watched Django Unchained.
Django Unchained.
Which, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, was my first Tarantino movie.
Yep.
And it interested me enough to go check out a second Tarantino movie.
Isn't that so crazy?
And Django Unchained was really, really good. I really liked the direction. I thought it was a really good blend of, like, the more goofy elements of Tarantino with the kind of more serious story. Jamie Foxx is giving just such a good performance. Christopher Waltz is really fun. The action's really, really good. The pacing is surprisingly good for what it's doing. And yeah, it's a really great movie.
Great film, Micah says.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's pretty fantastic.
I'm looking forward to it.
And Jamie Foxx gives, like, one of my favorite performances I've seen.
Oh, cool.
I gave it a 4.5.
Dang. That night we watched a little thing called John Mulaney, Kid Gorgeous at Radio City.
Yes, which is a very, very good comedy special.
Very, very iconic and I think generation defining comedy special.
Right. Everyone knows.
I was about to say,
Gorgeous.
If you mentioned one of the Kid Gorgeous bits, I hadn't even seen it before this, and I knew most of them.
Yeah,
it's a great special.
It's really good. It's not. I still will claim that New in Town is a little better.
It would be so close.
But Kid Gorgeous is genuinely fantastic.
Kid Gorgeous. I think I like my favorite John Mulaney bit is probably somewhere in Kid Gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I think probably New in Town is probably a bit more consistently funny. So
because again, Robbie, the bit and binder thing, you don't get better than that.
That's a great
probably
bit,
like the best thing from John Mulaney,
dude. Yeah, I give it a 5 out of 5. I loved it.
Then on the 12th, what did you watch?
I watched another Hitchcock film.
Gosh, get off Hitchcock.
Okay, I had this Hitchcock box set, and I was about to give it away. So I was watching the stuff that I hadn't seen from it yet, and I think this was the last film in there. It's called Secret Agent. It's another one of his sound pictures, which I suppose most of them are. Like, generally speaking, he did more after the transition to sound. But yeah, Secret Agent, it's about secret agents.
Wait until he gets the transition to color, Robbie.
Micah, there's a really cool... Oh, man. Vertigo. Gotta watch Vertigo. It's a really fun movie. It's got some fun, like, spy goofiness to it, which is fun, you know? It's well shot. It's got some good direction, some fun dialogue. There's a cool dachshund in there that gets loose in a casino, and it's really awesome. But other than that, it has some very regressive gender politics in it. Go figure. It's a 30s movie. And oh my goodness, there's this they basically have Peter Lorre doing like brown face in this, which is very concerning. But yeah, other than those two things, I liked a lot of things about this movie. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5.
Apparently, this is a very complex movie. What was going on? But might as well do a whole episode on it.
Okay, Secret Agent is a very complicated movie because it's very well directed. It's got a fun screenplay, but it also is kind of boring and really regressive, so it's strange. It's a strange movie, but I liked it.
Then also on the 12th, I rewatched The Witch and showed it to Robbie.
Yeah.
Robert Eggers' The Witch.
Unfortunately, not a Suspiria spinoff, but this is good too, I suppose.
It still didn't fully work for me. I was hoping on a rewatch it would come together even more, but it's still really fantastic, obviously, but I still just don't get that much emotionally out of the story.
I think maybe your taste should come together a little bit more, Mike.
Yeah, Robbie, your taste should come together a little bit more on The Northman. This is not better than The Northman.
The Witch is really like one of the best horror movies I've seen probably in recent years.
Is it really a horror movie?
It is. I would argue it is.
It's like a thriller.
It's okay. Well, it's like a thriller. Let's see what Letterboxd
A little
says.
farm
It says
thriller.
mystery, horror, fantasy.
Robbie, they
drama.
throw horror on everything. Literally, you could go to horror and there's like Chuck E. Cheese or something.
Go to Ratatouille. It's listed under horror. They wouldn't be too
like
far
a
off.
Quiet Place horror. The Menu
Well,
horror.
Quiet Place obviously isn't horror. But yeah, The Witch, I really enjoyed
Train to Busan.
it. It's very well directed. I loved
Bodies.
Okay. I loved how it was written. I loved how it was shot. I loved how it was directed. I'm incredibly shocked that actors this young gave this good of performances.
There are some fantastic
I
performances.
loved the use of imagery that this has. I loved how scary it was.
Anya Taylor-Joy's performance, fantastic.
I loved the atmosphere. I loved just about everything about this
No,
movie.
it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. The lighting especially. It's
yeah,
an
the
insane,
lighting.
it's an insane debut film, for sure.
Yeah, this is a debut, dude. Isn't that crazy? I think that's crazy. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I adored it. Thought it was great.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think it's pretty great, but it just doesn't fully, I don't know, it could have been better.
Fair enough, yeah. You watched a couple more things.
Yeah. On the 13th, I watched 8th Grade.
8th Grade.
Bo Burnham. I had
Bo Burnham.
thought the movie a while ago, and I had never really checked it out. And then my mom was like, "Hey, you want to turn on a movie?" And it was like midnight, so we wanted to turn on something not too long, and this wasn't too long, so we turned on 8th Grade.
Turn on 8th Grade. Mike is like, let's turn on a movie with my mom, and it was 8th Grade.
And it was really, really fantastic. Well, she wanted to see it.
I know.
That's what I was waiting on to watch it. She said she wanted to watch it. So I was
see.
like, okay.
I see.
But it was really, really fantastic. I didn't know what to expect, but man, the performances are really good, and just the writing really, like the movie just really, really, in an empathetic way, understands what it's like to be in middle school, which is not a pleasant experience.
Not usually a pleasant experience.
But it's really empathetic, and it's really sweet, and it's funny, and it's very well directed. I got super emotional from it.
Bo Burnham
also-
directed a funny movie?
It also got me like anxious, which very, very, very few movies have ever done, which I think is a big feat, especially being that it's about a character with anxiety.
There you go.
So I don't know. I think it's pretty darn fantastic and really, really sweet towards what it's doing.
Well, there you go.
And I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Can't wait to see it. I'm really honestly pretty shocked that you gave it a 5. I don't know. I'd heard like good stuff about it, obviously. And I mean, it has a 3.8 average.
I was about to say several of my friends have given it 5.
Hey, I mean, more power to them. I want to see it. I'm looking forward to it.
Then next on the 14th, I watched Kill Bill Volume 1.
Volume 1.
Another, again, I was like, oh, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was good, and Django was good. Maybe Kill Bill will be good. And Kill Bill was good, but it wasn't like as good.
Kill Bill was good.
I did not really I was nowhere near as big of a fan of it as Django or Hollywood. I think it's too much of a volume 1. Like, I really think the story is kind of unsatisfying on its own, and there's not really a whole lot to grab onto, like, character wise, that got me that invested in, like, literally, like, because 90% of the runtime is just the bride killing people and just succeeding. Like it's literally just killing people, which is fine, and that's like it's fun action. Don't get me wrong; it's still really well directed, and the performances are really good. I didn't know if I would like Uma Thurman, and I actually really liked her in this a lot.
Nice.
But like it's just an odd movie and like not very satisfying to get to the end of. It really makes me want to watch Volume 2, though. I'm sure I would probably like this better once I watched Volume 2.
Well, there you go.
Like the actual technical qualities of it are still pretty good. I just think the writing is definitely the weakest out of those three that I had watched. I give it a 4 out of 5.
Very nice. The Tarantino saga continues. After that, on the 15th, we watched a little film called Tar. You might have heard of it. We didn't mention it in our year wrapped thing for 2022 because we hadn't seen it yet. But now we've seen it.
Lydia Tarr.
Lydia Tarr.
The greatest character in fiction.
Yeah, probably. Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett.
But no, I was really excited for Tar. I'm a really big Kate Blanchett fan.
I am too now.
I really love movies about classical music oftentimes, and this also just looked really sick.
It is really sick.
And it was really, really fantastic. Lydia Tarr is such a freaking interesting and fun character.
Lydia Tarr is real, Mike.
The direction is really fun. It's such an interesting and like contemplative character study.
It really is. I was so surprised at how like much it takes its time, and it's like so. I don't know. It's a very meditative movie. And Lydia Tarr is just such a captivating character here.
I don't think it's a perfect film. I think there are some things where the pacing doesn't fully work because like it's a slow movie. Obviously. I don't care about it being a slow movie, but there were times that I felt a little disconnected from what it was trying to do.
Interesting.
So it's not perfect, but man, like Kate Blanchett as Lydia Tarr is honestly, like genuinely, I know everybody makes jokes about it because again, really fantastic characters are easy to make jokes
I was about to say easy to mock.
But Lydia Tarr is literally one of the most interesting characters I've seen put to screen in a long time. I could watch so much of her. I want to know what happens next. I want Tar 2.
I was about to say Kate Blanchett is going like full Daniel Day-Lewis here and just like delivering one of the most like captivating things I've seen on a screen recently.
Yeah, like you literally just don't want to look away from what she's doing.
Oh man.
Like I put it in that tweet. It's so much more fun watching vaguely evil women than it is vaguely evil men.
It's true. I do want to shout out the editing in this too, which was very good. But yeah, making movies about music is like a cheat code, I think, to making a good movie. So.
Originally, I had in mind, I was like, oh, I'll be able to put my "she did nothing wrong" kind of review, but then the movie goes on, and I'm like, oh no,
she did lots of things wrong.
I can't use that. But yeah. It's a very good movie. I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
I give it a 5, dude. I adored this. I thought it was great. I loved the atmosphere. It's a great movie. Gotta love it.
Then on the 15th, baby. I watched Curious George. It was the first time I had watched it in like a long time. And my girlfriend wanted to show it to me. Yeah. And you know what? It's a darn fun movie.
Certified baby classic.
Its animation is kind of cheap looking, which makes me a little sad. But it's really fun and inventive for what they're doing it with. It's a weird as heck like vocal cast. Like,
that's
seriously
funny. I really want to watch it again. I'm excited.
It's got Frank Welker in it.
Oh, cool.
He voices George.
Nice.
Shout out to Frank Welker.
Shout out to him.
But yeah, it's just cute. It's fun. There's not much to it. It's pretty funny.
Cool.
But you know, it's a good movie. I gave it a 3.5.
Very nice, very nice. And later that day, the 15th, we watched Boots Riley's
film.
To
put away your baby movies. Sorry to Bother
Sorry to Bother You. A real movie for real people. Destiny is calling, Micah.
Destiny is calling. Sorry to bother you. Picture.
Sorry to bother you. Oh my goodness, man. This is one of my favorite films probably ever. And it's just such it's such a joy to watch.
It's such an interesting film.
It's a joyful movie.
It's such a weird film. I have such weird thoughts on this film. Really what makes this film work so much for me is that you really feel the passion and love behind like everybody. Like everybody, this feels like such a passion project by everyone involved.
Absolutely.
And it comes through to give this movie such a solid energy that I just simply do not think it would work if it didn't have that energy.
It's an undeniable energy from Sorry to Bother You.
Because
it's undeniable.
I think the screenplay is a little clunky.
It is.
I think its satire doesn't fully work in every way.
Not in every way, but it's pretty good for what it is, dude.
But I think it's really such an inventive and creative film, matched with just fantastic performances, really creative direction, good editing, good lighting, really fun ideas from the production crew. Like, I don't know. It's a very neat film.
A good Tessa Thompson role.
Very funny, good Tessa Thompson.
I'm surprised. I don't know. There's nothing against Tessa Thompson, but I'm usually very bored with her other roles.
Lakeith Stanfield.
She's amazing.
Lakeith Stanfield leading a movie.
He needs to lead every movie.
I don't know why. Like, I think this is the only movie I've seen him as the lead.
As the lead, probably.
I was about to say, I don't even think he's the lead.
No, Daniel Kaluuya is the lead in Judas and the Black Messiah. Yeah.
Where's his second lead? I need him to lead more films.
Yes. My goodness. He's one of the best actors out there right now, man. He was underused in
Uncut Gems. He was underused in Get Out.
He's one of the best things about Uncut Gems, man. Man, I love that guy. He's so good. Yeah, but yeah, Boots Riley has a new show that he's working on, and I'm very excited about it because Sorry to Bother You is one of my favorite movies.
But I gave it a 4.5.
I give it a 5, dude. It's like I said, it's a movie that I get so much joy watching, and it's got such a fun flavor of creativity to it. I love it. Sorry to Bother You. Great film.
Then on the 15th, again, this is another one I was referring to, that Ravi has a hard time giving movies lower than 4 stars.
Okay, this is
not a 4-star movie, but we watched Paul Thomas Anderson's Hard 8, his first feature film, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, his debut feature.
Debut feature film, and it is pretty okay.
I would say it's pretty great.
Overly long, not that well written, but at least it's got good stuff behind it.
I was about to say, it's very amateurish in a lot of ways, and it's obviously underwritten. Yeah.
It's very underwritten.
But I still think it's fun, and I really loved Philip Baker Hall.
No, Philip Baker Hall
carries this movie on his back, bro.
But the pacing is kind of wonky. The writing is kind of wonky.
The writing is wonky.
The direction isn't even fully there. I don't think the cinematography is as good as it could be.
Okay.
The score isn't as good as it could be.
Stay away from Robert Elswit, Micah. He's great. He does good work.
It is a fun movie. It is a fun and pretty decent debut film. You can feel a lot of the things that would grow to become powerful director Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yes.
But this is not that powerful of a film, and I did not get that much out of it.
There's a lot of really good scenes.
Yes, there are good individual
separate scenes. Yeah,
it
doesn't gel as well as I want it to.
All of the conflicts with Samuel L. Jackson at the end are very, very cool, and it's almost like the movie should have just had more to do with Sydney and less to do with.
Yeah, I think
Clementine.
I think it dedicates too much time to John and Clementine. Obviously, I think that's its biggest problem.
Yeah, it needs to be Sydney.
I was about to say I want the conflict to be more about Sydney.
Well, that's the thing. There isn't much conflict for most of the movie. It just kind of meanders around, and then there's a weird conflict, and they're like, "Oh, you killed his dad," and it's like, "Oh, okay,
okay." I mean, I don't know. I thought it was pretty great in spite of all of its problems, which it very obviously has.
Yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It is a good movie, but it is not a great movie, Ravi. I don't know what
I would
giving it a 4 out of 5.
I give it a 4. I really enjoyed it.
How, Ravi?
I don't know. I had fun watching it. I thought its technical craft, the editing, the cinematography, the lighting, especially the production design, it was all there. It's just lacking a little in other departments.
And, important stuff like writing and direction. And substance.
Listen, Sydney is enough substance to carry the movie in my eyes.
Gosh. Anyway, on the 16th, I watched Death Proof.
Death Proof.
Continuing my Tarantino spiel.
Mike has now seen half of Tarantino's filmography or something.
I actually have, I think. I've seen a good, a little less than half, I think.
That's crazy. It's only been a week, dude.
But yeah, I watched Death Proof, which was a very odd film. I did not know what to expect going into it. It's one of the weirder Tarantino films that I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't really, I wasn't really gelling with the first half of the movie that well, like, because I liked the craft, but it seemed kind of meandery and also really, like, objectifying of all of the women in it. Like,
Yikes.
not even, because, like, the whole thing is the guy is creepy, but, like, the opening shot of, like, our character is, like, her bending over in front of the camera. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's nice. And there's, like, a lot, I don't know, there's a lot to it that I don't like. This is, like, Tarantino at his most needs to calm down. He is like literally this movie is like, yeah, he needed to calm down. But at the same time, the second half of the movie is genuinely really fantastic. The car stuff is really, really good, and the characters are really fun to watch. And like, I don't know, just the final conflict is literally some of the best car stuff I've ever seen. I don't really like car chases, but I was like just completely glued to this.
It's an American tradition,
and it was, and it was just really, really fun. And I liked the first half too. There's just less that I like about it, and it's odd, kind of splitting your movie so drastically into two halves.
I'm very interested. I think Death Proof is honestly one of the most like anticipated films from Tarantino.
It's only because Mary Elizabeth Weinstein,
I know,
who is barely in the movie.
Which I am heartbroken, crestfallen that Mary Elizabeth Weinstein is not in more of the movie, because I was like, oh, it's one of her performances from a really acclaimed director that I hadn't seen yet. Because I even watched her Netflix movie, which was pretty good, but not like amazing.
But yeah, I don't know. I liked it even more than I liked Kill Bill, and it was nice. I genuinely think it's great. I find it so odd that this is one of the most like divisive of any of the Tarantino movies I've seen.
Really?
Like, people are really split on either thinking this is pretty bad or really great.
Interesting.
But I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see it. It looks interesting at the very least. And then on the 16th
as well.
Oh yeah, that was dang. Watched a lot of movies, man. We watched a little film called Silence of the Lambs.
The Silence of the Lambs.
The Silence of the Lambs.
Jonathan Demme.
Ever heard of it?
It was our first time I had the Criterion for a while. We finally popped that baby in. And lo and behold, one of the most acclaimed movies I've heard of was very, very good.
It's in the top 100 highest rated films on Letterboxd, Micah.
It's in like the top 100 of like all the highest rated. Like, that's not just Letterboxd. This is just genuinely a really acclaimed film.
I mean, it's a brilliant screenplay. It's insanely well acted. The cinematography is like probably all time great. It's a great film.
This is one of those movies that has such a classic feeling that I almost have like nothing to say. Like, everything is pretty much perfect, but so I don't like have like anything like, I'm like, yeah. It's Silence of the Lambs.
It's Silence of the Lambs. It's like watching Psycho. Like, obviously, it's a genre-defining great crime movie. Like, It's hard to beat it.
Yeah, like, literally, it's just, like, almost everything about it is fantastic in every way.
It's so well
and
paced.
And the performances are so good.
So well
paced.
The structure of this movie
all the
is
scenes
so
are
cool.
good. And, like, what can you say? It's Silence of the Lambs.
I had heard Anthony Hopkins, my boy, was good.
Okay, his voice in this, voice in this that he's doing as Hannibal reminds me of something. It really, really reminds me of something.
Is it that Adventures in Odyssey character that you're thinking of?
No, I don't think so. But I cannot place what his voice reminds me of. But the entire movie, I was like, this really reminds me of somebody else's performance in something.
That's funny. But yeah, Silence of the Lambs. It was our first time watching it.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Jonathan Demme, best director, is what I said.
Then also on the 16th, I rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and showed it to Robbie.
I saw my first Tarantino film,
and I think it's such a neat film. I love what it's doing thematically,
so cool. It's
and
a cool
pacing wise. Its story. I can't believe people think this is like a nothing movie.
Right?
Like, it has no point, when I feel like it very clearly has a point.
I was about to say, the ending of this movie is way more cathartic than I thought it would be.
And like, I think it's
man.
really interesting what they do with like the actual story, and people being like, oh, but why use an actual story? I think that very seriously ties into the fact that this was the first film that he did without Weinstein.
Yeah.
Or Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Which, I think that brings some very serious context to the film. That makes it a very interesting contemplative ride, while also just being a fun, goofy little glowing movie.
Austin Butler kind of swoops in, steals the show at the end.
Austin Butler's really great.
Man, like, this might be my favorite Brad Pitt role, which is saying something, because I love Rusty.
Yeah.
But like honestly, this is like on the same level, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, he's giving a fantastic performance here.
Yeah, man. If Tarantino's other movies are anything like this, I think I'm really going to enjoy them. So
Yeah,
it was great.
On a rewatch, I still gave it a 5 out of 5.
I also gave it
I think
5
it's
out of
pretty
5.
darn perfect. I wouldn't change anything really.
Yeah, I mean it's such a cool example of like, you know, like true fiction, that kind of thing, like based on real events. But this is like a really neat way of going about.
Yeah, well, it makes it
doing it.
instead of just being like, oh, what if we based it off of these events and then changed things?
Yeah.
It makes the fact that they changed things like the point.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the movie.
thematic point of the movie,
Which is really cool. It's a really cool movie. But yeah, that was the last thing we watched. Now we're here. And we were talking about Ratatouille, but now we're done talking about Ratatouille, and we're gonna go home.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess we're already home. We record this at home, but you know, whatever.
Anyway, bye guys. Thank you for tuning in to season 5.
Yes.
We've been doing this for a while. And
Almost 5 years.
we appreciate you guys.
Yes.
Tune in next week for something.
For something else. Goodbye.
Bye.